I knew it was her before I saw her, by the scent. She smelled like winter, like power, and something that made my heart forget its rhythm. The scent hit me mid-swing, sharp, commanding, cold. My blade stopped inches from the neck of the recruit in front of me, who blinked up at me in confusion, panting. Around us, the sounds of combat faltered. One by one, heads turned toward the stone archway at the far end of the training arena. I hadn't smelled that scent in 5 years, not since the fire, not since the night everything ended. A shadow crossed the sunlit threshold. Then she stepped out. My breath caught. Tall, unmoving, dressed in a dark cloak with silver-lined shoulders and boots that echoed against stone. Her cropped hair framed her sharp jaw. Her posture was carved from control, and her eyes, gods, her eyes, were ice. Not the girl I remembered. Not the one I'd taught to disarm a blade or sneak out past curfew. This was someone else entirely. My wolf stirred, not in recognition, but in submission. And it made me sick. Because every part of me still remembered her as mine to protect, not mine to serve. Eli Rix, she said, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. No warmth, no pause, no surprise, just command. My body responded before I could think, straightening, turning to her, heart thudding painfully hard. The scent was stronger now. Alpha strong. Effective immediately, she said, stepping onto the training ground like it belonged to her. You're reinstated into the Alpha's guard. Whispers rippled through the watching pack. Someone hissed behind me. Reinstated? I hadn't worn that crest in 5 years, not since her father died. Not since the council scattered us like ash. She walked right past me, not sparing a glance. Just the sound of her boots on stone, and the flick of her cloak behind her. She didn't see me. Or she did, and didn't care. I stood there, stupidly frozen, watching her disappear into the hall that led to the war room. My pulse still hadn't calmed. That's not her, I told myself. That's not the girl I swore to die for. But then again, maybe she didn't need saving anymore. And maybe that's what terrified me most. I scrubbed the training dust from my hands, my knuckles raw from sparring. I barely heard the younger wolves murmuring as I passed. But I felt their stares. The protector's back, the ghost, the Alpha's shadow. None of them said it aloud, but I knew what they whispered. Didn't she die? I thought so too. I'd buried her in my memory, along with half my ribs and most of my sanity. I carried the scars to prove it, literal and otherwise. And now she was back, not just alive, but Alpha. Alpha. The thought made something twist deep inside my gut. Something not entirely unpleasant. When I reached my quarters, the old crest was already waiting on the table. Black leather, silver thread, the symbol of the Alpha's guard, a fang piercing the moon. Beside it, a folded note in delicate handwriting. Report to me at first light. L. That was it. No welcome back. No sorry I faked my death. No explanation. I stared at the signature for a long time. Just the initial, not even a name. She'd always signed things Lea, like it was a secret past between us. When we were kids, I'd taught her to write it that way. A little loop at the end, like a curl of her hair. Now it was just L. Sleep didn't come that night. Not because of the tension, not because of the reinstatement or the whispers, but because of her voice. Low. Absolute. Familiar in the most foreign way. That voice had once whispered jokes into my ear during long patrols. It had once told me it was scared of losing me. Now it commanded me, and my body obeyed before my mind could catch up. That's what Alpha power was. Instinct deeper than memory. The body remembers who rules it. But what if the heart remembers someone else? And what if those two things can't live in the same body? Because as I lay there in the dark, one truth rang louder than any order she could give me. She didn't just come back from the dead. She came back changed. And I had no idea if I was still her protector. Or her prisoner. The council hall smelled of ink, pinewood, and tension. I stood to the side, my arms folded behind my back, as Lea sat at the head of the curved stone table. Light streamed in from the high windows, casting sharp lines across her face and the silver edge of her jacket. She looked like she'd been carved into that seat. not placed there, meant for it. Her voice was calm and clipped, as she issued orders to the assembled members of the new leadership. Some of them old guard, some new blood. None of them challenged her. Not openly. Then she turned to me. "Eli," she said, not even glancing up from her notes. "You'll accompany me to the Outer Ridge tomorrow for a summit with the Fernshade Alliance. Bring light gear and stay close." Her tone was flat, like it had been written hours ago and she was just reading it now. And yet, the moment she said my name, something pressed on my chest, like a boot on the sternum, subtle, firm, inescapable. Alpha command. I'd felt it before, from her father, from our old generals. But this was different, colder, more personal. I nodded once, jaw tight. Understood. Her pen scratched paper. That was all the acknowledgement I got. Later that day, she found me on the sparring grounds. I was practicing with 2 younger wolves when her voice cut across the yard. "Rix." With me, I dismissed the recruits and followed her to the center ring. The same one where we used to train, years ago, when she still wore braids and bruises like trophies. She tossed me a wooden blade. "Spar, right now?" I asked. Her head tilted just slightly. "Is there a better time?" I bit back a comment and stepped into stance. The weapon was familiar in my grip. She circled me, light on her feet, measured. There was no warmth in her gaze now. No mischief. Just calculation. We clashed. Wood against wood. Step, pivot, block. She was fast. Faster than I remembered. Sharper in movement, like every motion was honed to a blade. I blocked her next strike and countered. But halfway through my swing, my arm froze. Not because of her speed. Because my body refused to strike. Her aura flared, just for a second. And my instincts locked. Muscles tightened. My wolf flinched. She moved past my hesitation and tapped her blade against my ribs. "Dead," she said simply. I stepped back, swallowing my frustration. "That was dirty," I muttered. "No," she said, lowering her weapon. "That was instinct. Yours, mine." She wasn't wrong. But it didn't make it easier to accept. She could freeze me with a whisper now. And once, she couldn't even raise her voice without looking to me for permission. As we rested, she turned away, gazing out toward the horizon. "You're slower than you used to be. You're colder than you used to be." That earned me a flick of her eyes. But no retort. "I thought you were dead," I said, voice low. "We all did. I had to disappear," she replied. "If I hadn't, none of us would be standing here." "You didn't think I deserved to know?" I asked. She looked at me then, really looked, and something shifted in her expression, just for a moment. But it was gone too fast to read. "This isn't about what you deserved, Eli," she said. "It's about survival. Mine, yours, the pack's. Cold, precise, strategic. Nothing like the girl who once hid with me behind the stables, laughing until her shoulders shook. But her grip on the training blade was too tight. She was holding something back. Later, while I cleaned up in the armory, Rhea found me. She leaned against the stone wall, arms crossed, her copper hair pulled into a rough knot. "You look like hell," she said. "Nice to see you too. I saw the sparring match," she added. "She had you locked down in 5 moves. She's the alpha." Rhea snorted. "She's a lot of things. Alpha's just one of them." I didn't answer. Just wiped down my blade. "You still see her the way you used to, don't you?" Rhea asked, softer now. "Like she's the same girl. The one you swore your life to." I paused. The cloth in my hands stilled. "She's not," Rhea said. "You need to see that before it gets you hurt." My jaw clenched. "I can take care of myself. She's not the one who needs protecting anymore, Eli." That was the part I hated most. Because she was right. And I hated her for saying it out loud. The council hall was already half full when I entered. The scent of parchment and politics hung in the air. Lea sat at the head again, expression unreadable, flanked by senior wolves and advisors from allied packs. That's when he arrived. Kavan. I didn't know him, but I knew his type. Immaculate slate gray coat, boots polished to a shine, silver ring on his left thumb, a symbol of high court lineage. His hair was swept back, dark and precise. Eyes pale, nearly translucent gray. They locked onto Lea like she was the only thing worth noticing. She didn't look up at first. Didn't have to. He bowed low. "Alpha," he said, voice like poured velvet. "It's an honor to serve." Something about the way he said serve made my hands curl into fists. "Kavan is here as liaison from the outer circle," one of the elders explained. "He'll be advising on diplomatic matters." Kavan smiled thinly. "Only as long as the Alpha will have me." She finally lifted her gaze. "Cool. Composed. Let's hope you're better with politics than with flattery," she said. The council chuckled. He did not, but his eyes flicked to me then. Assessed. Weighed. Dismissed. He knew who I was, and he didn't care. Later that evening, I caught movement in the hallway outside the archives. Soft footfalls. A slim figure in a hooded cloak. Too small to be Lee. I followed, silent as breath. The girl slipped past the gates and into the rear courtyard, then ducked behind a low wall leading toward the forest edge. I stayed close, watching from the shadows. Only when she turned toward a hidden gate did moonlight catch her face. Lena, Lea's younger sister. She glanced around, then knelt, retrieving something from beneath the old roots of a birch tree. A scroll? A package? I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just watched as she slipped back into the keep, eyes alert, like she expected to be followed. She was wrong. I was already ahead of her. I found Rhea sharpening her blades outside the barracks, lit by torchlight and surrounded by the scent of iron and pine. "You're brooding again," she said, not looking up. "Kavan showed up today." "Oh?" She smiled without warmth. "The snake in silk. He's watching Lea like she's prey." "She is prey," Rhea muttered. "Just not the kind that gets eaten easily." I sat beside her, stretching out a sore shoulder. The silence was companionable, until she broke it with a sigh. "She's different now," Rhea said. "You see it too, right?" I didn't answer. "You still think she's the same girl who used to follow you around with wide eyes and broken rules?" My jaw tightened. "That girl died 5 years ago. Then why are you still guarding her ghost?" I turned to her. She looked tired of watching me bleed for someone who didn't even glance back. "She left without a word, Eli. And now she commands you like a soldier." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." Her voice cracked. "You don't even see me, do you?" The question landed harder than I expected. She looked away, then dropped the whetstone. "I used to think if I waited long enough, you'd come back to me." "But you never left her, did you?" "Not really." I stood. "Rhea." "No," she said. "Don't explain." "I already know." I stepped forward instinctively, but her posture straightened. She wouldn't let me pity her. So, I didn't. I left her there in the firelight, steel in her lap, and grief in her silence. As I walked the stone halls back toward my quarters, a heavy feeling settled in my chest. Kavan's arrival, Lena's secret, Rhea's pain, and in the middle of it all, Lee, my alpha, my memory, my mistake. The pack wasn't just changing, it was cracking, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to break. The halls of the keep were quiet after council. Too quiet. I wasn't looking for her. I told myself that twice as I passed the open door, once when I noticed the soft flicker of firelight, and again when I heard the sound no alpha should ever make. A breath. Shallow. Shaken. Lea. Her chambers were dim, lit only by the fire in the hearth and the faint moonlight filtering through the tall windows. Beyond the glass, the forest was black, still, and full of watching eyes. She stood in the center of the room, facing away, one hand braced against the mantel. Her shoulders rose and fell too quickly. Her other hand trembled at her side. "Lea," I said quietly. She didn't turn. Her scent hit me next, sharp, distorted, her control fraying at the edges. I took a cautious step inside. "Are you... leave?" The word cracked through the air like a whip. Cold. Authoritative. But it wasn't what she usually sounded like when she gave orders. It wasn't layered with dominance. It was layered with desperation. I heard what happened at the summit, I said softly. Another alpha challenged your claim. They challenged weakness, she snapped, still not turning. And I gave it to them. I stepped closer, and that's when I saw it. Her eyes reflected in the glass of the window. Gold. Glowing, wild, and rimmed with shadow. Her pupils were slitted. Her breathing shallow. Her wolf was too close. I froze. You're shifting. No, she hissed. I'm fighting it. I watched her hands curl, nails lengthening slightly before pulling back. Her entire body shook with the effort of staying human. Instinct told me to leave, but something stronger told me to stay. Let me help you, I said. Help? She laughed, but it was broken. You can't help me, Eli. You can barely look at me. I'm looking now. Finally, she turned. Her lips were pale, her expression tight with strain. But the thing that caught me, held me, was the flicker of vulnerability behind the fury. That vulnerability used to be all she had. Now, it was the only thing she tried to hide. You need to go, she said, voice softer now. I can't hold it much longer. I took a step closer, and something in the air shifted. It was like pressure, thick and electric, pressing against my skin from the inside out. My wolf stirred uneasily, recognizing hers like a low growl beneath my ribs. We'd never bonded, but something in the room cracked like an invisible wire snapping. You're afraid of it, I whispered. Of yourself. Her eyes flared gold again. I'm not afraid. Yes, you are. You're afraid of what it'll do, what you'll do. Because the last time it came out, someone didn't survive. Her face changed, just a flicker, a fracture, but enough. I didn't know what happened to her during those missing years, but I knew pain when I saw it. I'm not the girl you knew, she said. Her voice was lower now. Not dominant, not defensive, just tired. I know. I've changed. So have I. She blinked hard, like she wasn't expecting that. I took another step. Now I was close enough to feel the heat radiating off her skin. Her breathing hitched. Say it, I said. That you don't want me here. She stared up at me, firelight dancing in her eyes, golden and flickering, and so full of barely contained hunger it made my chest ache. Her lips parted, but she didn't say it, and that was all I needed. I reached for her hand, slowly, carefully, like approaching an injured animal. Our fingers touched. Just that. No command. No order. Just skin to skin. Her hand didn't tremble anymore. Why are you still here? She whispered. Because I'm still the man who would have died for you, I said. And you're still the girl I protected. Even if you can't see her right now. Her eyes shimmered. Not glowing now. Just wet. The next breath she took was steadier. Not perfect. But enough. Enough for her wolf to settle. Enough for her to breathe like herself again. Then, as if realizing the intimacy of the moment, she pulled back. Straightened. Reclaimed the distance. But not completely. Don't speak of this, she said. To anyone. I won't. And don't mistake this for something it's not. I held her gaze. Wouldn't dream of it. But she didn't move away. And neither did I. It started with a whisper. Just a flicker of movement beyond the wall. The moon was high, casting long shadows through the pine forest behind the keep. I had followed Lena from the courtyard, her footsteps light but far too purposeful for an evening stroll. She slipped through a rusted side gate and into the trees. I followed at a distance, silent, cloaked in instinct and suspicion. When she stopped, it was at the old boundary wall, near a forgotten outpost. There, someone waited, hooded, tall, unfamiliar. I crouched behind a cluster of ferns and watched. She handed him a sealed envelope. No hesitation, no fear. You're sure this will work? She asked. The man nodded, voice low and sharp. Once Kayvan is in full control, the alpha title is his. The council won't question it. Not with your testimony. She doesn't deserve the title, Lena said. Venom in every word. She was gone for 5 years. She came back wrong. We all see it. He's the one with vision. My chest tightened. She's selling her sister out. I moved before I could think. I stepped from the shadows and growled, "That's enough." Lena whirled. "Eli?" The hooded man vanished into the dark with supernatural speed. Coward. But I didn't chase him. My eyes were on Lena. "What the hell are you doing?" I barked. Her chin lifted, defiant. What someone had to do. "She's not fit to lead. She's unstable. You saw it yourself. That gives you the right to conspire with traitors? She's lost control of herself. And everyone around her is too afraid or too loyal to say it." I stepped closer. "She rebuilt this pack from ashes. Alone. And you think that makes her infallible?" "No," I growled. "But it makes her stronger than you'll ever be." She tried to slap me. I caught her wrist, mid-swing. "I'm bringing you in," I said. "I don't regret it," she hissed. "When she falls, don't think she'll take you with her. You'll be left in the dirt. Right where you belong." By the time we reached the council chamber, the alarm had already spread. Cavan was there, of course. Too ready, too polished. He stood beside Lea like he belonged there. His hand brushed her shoulder lightly when she turned to face me. I didn't miss the flicker in her eyes when she saw me holding Lena by the arm. "Found her near the west wall," I said, handing over a sealed message to a non-pack wolf. He ran. Cavan's face barely twitched. "That's a serious accusation, Rix." "I have ears, Cavan. And a motive," he said smoothly. "Everyone here knows how protective you are of the Alpha. Especially when it comes to potential rivals." My body stilled. "What are you implying?" "I'm saying," he said with mock patience, "that perhaps you're creating enemies where there are none. It would not be the first time a soldier manipulated a scene to eliminate a political threat. Are you out of your mind?" Lea raised a hand. Silence fell. She turned to Lena. "Is it true?" Lena said nothing. Lea's expression flickered. Once. Then steeled. "Place her under watch," she said to the guards. "And Rix?" Cavan pressed. "Surely an investigation is warranted. We can't afford to play favorites." Lea looked at me for a long time. Then, "Eli Rix, you are relieved of duty pending review." It wasn't a betrayal. Not yet. But it cut like one. She didn't meet my eyes again as I was escorted away. The holding cell was cold and dry. Stone walls, iron gate, no windows. I sat on the bench with my elbows on my knees, fists clenched. I'd fought for this pack. Bled for it. Died for her, almost. And now, I was here. Because someone decided ambition was more valuable than truth. I wasn't sure how long I sat there before the door opened. Soft footsteps. Bare. Lea. She didn't bring guards. Didn't speak until she stood just beyond the bars. "You shouldn't have gone after her alone." "She's your sister." "I know. She's trying to replace you." "I know," she said, louder now. And then, softer, "I always knew she would choose power over me. But I didn't want to believe it would be so easy for her." I stood. Stepped close to the bars. "You believe me then?" "I do. So why am I still in a cage?" Her voice trembled. "Because the moment I treat you differently, I lose credibility. And I can't afford to lose anything else." I studied her face. Tired. Controlled. Fragile beneath the steel. "You're not weak, Lea." She shook her head. "That's where you're wrong. You make me feel things I can't afford to feel. When you're near, the part of me I buried keeps clawing back to the surface." My hand gripped the bars. "That part of you was never the enemy." She looked up, eyes shining in the firelight. "I'm not afraid of being weak," she said. "I'm afraid of being seen. By you." I stepped forward, voice low. "You're not weak. Then, what am I?" "Alone," I said. "And so am I." We didn't touch. But something passed between us. Something wordless and old. And it settled deep in my bones like truth. The gathering took place on the fractured stone plains between our territories, a neutral ground marked by ash trees and silence. 3 clans had come to parley. Diplomacy, they said. What it really meant was circling like wolves around a bleeding deer, waiting for the moment to strike. Lea stood at the center of the open council ring, spine straight, hands behind her back. Regal. Composed. Alone. I watched from the edge, flanked by 2 temporary guards, technically still under review, but no one else could be trusted to watch her back. Not anymore. That was when Alpha Dorn stepped forward. Broad, sneering, older than most of us combined. He'd ruled his territory for decades through intimidation alone. His wolves flanked him like shadows. You expect us to follow this Alpha? Dorn's voice carried. A child who ran when her father fell? A girl who disappeared for 5 years while the rest of us buried the dead? The air snapped tight. Even the wind seemed to go still. Lea didn't flinch. But I saw it. A twitch in her jaw. The flicker in her eyes. Careful, she said, voice sharp as frost. I am being careful, Dorn continued, circling her like a predator testing a rival. But I don't trust what I can't smell. And you, Alpha Riven, he emphasized her title with mockery, don't smell like any leader I've known. You smell like something feral. I felt it before anyone else. Her power. Unraveling. A pulse rolled through the clearing like thunder underwater. Low, vibrating, unnatural. Her aura spiked. Cold, dark, unstable. Then her eyes flashed gold. And everything went to hell. She screamed, more beast than woman, and dropped to her knees, her body convulsing. Her hands twisted, claws forming, bones snapping into place. Her face contorted, caught between forms. Not full wolf. Not full human. Something between. Something dangerous. Everyone backed away. Even Dorn. Guards drew weapons. Shift back. Someone yelled. She couldn't. She wasn't there anymore. The beast had taken over. I moved before I could think. Dropped my blades. Stepped into the ring. Rix. Someone barked behind me. Stand down. But I kept walking. Toward her. Toward it. She snarled, low and guttural, teeth too long for her face. Hands curled into claws that dug into the stone beneath her. Her body shook. Chest rising with ragged, uneven breaths. Her aura lashed the air around her. A storm of instinct and rage. But it wasn't rage aimed at me. It was confusion. Fear. She doesn't know where she is. I stopped just feet from her, and slowly dropped to my knees. And then, I bared my neck. A full display of submission. A challenge to no one. An offering to her. To Lea. Hey, I whispered. Little flame. Her head jerked. A flicker of recognition. That was what I used to call her, back when she'd sneak into my training sessions and demand to learn how to fight, when her eyes had burned with determination instead of pain. Do you remember this? I whispered, still on my knees. You told me once that no one scared you more than your own reflection. I said I'd stand in front of it, if that's what it took. She growled, low and shuddering, but her claws didn't move. You're not a monster, I said. You're hers. And she's still in there. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. Her breath hitched. I didn't move. Didn't flinch. I just stayed. Until finally, she reached for me. Not with claws, but with trembling fingers. Her body began to change. Bones cracking, shifting back, skin reforming under moonlight. And when it was over, she collapsed into my arms. Bare, shaking, human, and completely silent. I lifted her without a word, ignoring the gasps and shouts around us. Council guards parted. No one stopped me. Even Dorn looked shaken. She clung to me, face buried in my chest, her fists gripping my shirt like it was the only thing anchoring her to the world. I carried her past them all, out of the ring, down the ridge, and into the woods where no one could follow. Only when we were alone did she finally speak. Why did you come to me? I lowered us to the ground, keeping her wrapped in my cloak. Because I knew you'd come back. Her voice cracked. I didn't think I would. I did. She looked up then, eyes red-rimmed but no longer glowing. And in the quiet between us, she whispered the only thing I hadn't expected. Stay with me. She asked me to leave before I got too close. But I'd already been too close for years. The forest was still dripping with the last breath of night when she finally let go of my hand. We had walked in silence for hours, away from the council grounds, into the old woods that once served as training trails and secret hideouts. Now, they were just trees. Watching, waiting. The edge of the lake appeared between the trunks like a mirror of sky. Still, undisturbed. The first gold of dawn cracked against its surface. Lea sat down on the mossy stone near the shore, arms wrapped around her knees. Her posture wasn't guarded, it was empty. I stayed back a few steps, waiting. She didn't speak for a long time. Then, softly, "I shouldn't have asked you to stay." I sat across from her, close enough to hear her heartbeat if I wanted. "But you did." I panicked. "You didn't sound panicked." She looked down at her hands. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "You don't understand. What happened back there, what I almost did. I understand better than you think." Her eyes met mine. "You weren't afraid?" "No," I said. "I wasn't." "Why?" "Because even at your worst, I knew you'd never hurt me." A breath hitched in her throat. I leaned forward slightly, letting my elbows rest on my knees. "You asked me once, a long time ago, why I never left the pack, even after your father died." She nodded slowly. "The truth is I didn't stay for duty, or honor, or any of the things we say to sound noble." "Then why?" "Because of you." Her breath caught. "I don't feel alive in this world," I said. "Not in these halls, not among these people, but when I'm near you, when I see you fighting to hold yourself together, I remember that I'm still human, that I matter." She didn't move, but something in her expression shifted. A wall, maybe. A doubt. A truth she didn't want to want. "I don't have the right," she whispered. "Not after what I've done, not after what I've become." I moved closer, slowly, carefully, until our knees nearly touched. "You don't get to decide that for me. I could hurt you." "You already have." She winced. I let the silence stretch for a beat. Then, "But I'm still here." Her eyes flicked up to mine. And she didn't look away. I reached for her hand again, not as a soldier seeking command, not as a protector offering safety, but as a man reaching for the only person who'd ever truly seen him. She didn't pull back. I lifted her hand, gently, and pressed it to my chest. "You feel that?" I said. Her palm rested over my heart. Its beat was strong, steady. "I only feel it when I'm with you." She blinked rapidly, as if trying to stop herself from believing me. But it was too late. I leaned in, forehead to forehead. No instinct, no alpha compulsion, just warmth. Her breath fanned across my lips, and when I kissed her, it wasn't desperate, or hungry, or trembling. It was still, soft, certain. She didn't kiss me like an alpha, claiming a subordinate. She kissed me like someone letting go of fear, for the first time in years. And in that moment, something between us clicked. Not dominance, not hierarchy, a bond, real, voluntary, not forged in battle or blood, but in trust. In choice. She pulled back just enough to whisper, "What happens now?" I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "Now," I said, "we stop pretending I was ever just your shield." She closed her eyes and smiled back. The courtyard was filled with firelight. Wolves lined the steps and stone paths of the keep's heart. Elders in ceremonial robes, guards in uniform, younglings peering over railings with wide eyes. A hush settled over the crowd like snowfall. Lea stood at the center, the carved emblem of her family behind her, the dusk sky darkening above. To her right stood Lena, wrists unbound but shoulders lowered. Not defiant, not victorious, defeated. "I betrayed this pack," Lena said, voice wavering but loud enough to carry. "I conspired with enemies. I tried to hand leadership to a man who only wanted to use us for his own rise." A few gasps. A murmur rippled through the courtyard. She didn't look at her sister. She didn't need to. Everyone could feel it. The fracture was permanent. And beside her, Cavan stood silent, his silver ring removed, his title already stripped. He didn't speak, didn't argue, just watched Lea with cold eyes, as if memorizing the moment she ruined him. Lea stepped forward. She wore no armor, no cloak, just black. Clean, simple, powerful. Leadership is not inherited, she said, her voice calm, strong. It is not taken, and it is not proven by dominance alone. The fire crackled. She turned, slowly, facing the crowd. It is proven when we choose truth over fear. When we lead not because we must, but because others trust us. Then she looked at me, and held out her hand. My breath caught in my chest. This wasn't a command. This was a question. I stepped forward, took her hand, and didn't kneel. She didn't ask me to. Instead, she turned back to the pack and said, I stand here with the one who never abandoned me, not as alpha and shield, but as equals. There was silence. Then applause. Then howls, soft at first, then swelling into a chorus. A sound of recognition, of acceptance, of beginning again. After the ceremony, as the crowd began to break apart into murmurs and quiet joy, I found her beneath the old oak tree, where her father used to sit during festivals. She stood barefoot in the grass, arms crossed loosely, eyes on the stars. I approached from behind, footsteps soft. So, I said, that went well. She didn't turn. You think they'll follow me now? They already are. She was quiet for a beat. Then she glanced at me, something playful, almost a smile, on her lips. And you? I took a step closer, close enough that our shoulders brushed. You know I don't follow. She tilted her head. No, you don't. A pause. Then I leaned in, dropped my voice low. So what does that make me exactly? She turned fully this time, eyes gleaming in the starlight. Yours? I offered. She smirked. Presumptuous? Maybe. I brushed her hair back behind her ear. Now that you're not issuing orders every 5 seconds, it's kind of nice. Don't get used to it. Too late. She reached up then, fingers grazing my jaw, and whispered, Are you going to ask the question? Or should I? I raised a brow. What question? The one in your eyes. I grinned. All right then. I leaned forward, brushing my lips against her temple, and said softly, So, are you my alpha now? She closed her eyes, smiled, then touched her forehead to mine and whispered, No. Now, we're both free,